Chapter 1, Prophecy. Where is this? Didn't I die in the battle against Kawaki? Naruto Uzumaki, the seventh Hokage, opened his eyes groggily. His vision blurred as he took in his surroundings, feeling completely disoriented. He found himself in an endless expanse of white, a vast and boundless space with no visible edges. Naruto instinctively called out, "Is anyone there? Can anyone hear me?" Silence. No voice responded, no echo returned. Naruto sighed deeply. Maybe this is the afterlife. His thoughts drifted back to his past. Since birth, his life had been filled with hardship. His parents Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki died the night he was born, leaving him an orphan. As a child, he was ostracized by the village, forced to endure loneliness and hunger, sometimes surviving on just a single meal a day. Yet, despite it all, he never gave up on his dream. At 12, he met Iruka-sensei, the first person to truly acknowledge him. After earning his forehead protector, he officially became a genin of Konohagakure. Under Kakashi Hitaki's guidance, he graduated from the academy and embarked on his journey as a ninja. During his first real mission in the Land of Waves, he encountered Zabuza Momochi. It was there when a kunai cut his hand that he truly understood pain and blood as the foundation of a ninja's path. He later defeated Niji Hyuga in the Chunin exams, proving his strength and marking the true debut of the so-called Demon Fox Boy. Then came his battle against Gaara, who had fully transformed into the One-Tails Jinchuriki. Defeating Gaara and protecting Konoha solidified his growing reputation. Shortly after, he became Jiraiya's disciple, gaining not just a mentor but a guiding figure in his life. Years later, he helped rescue Gaara from the Akatsuki, strengthening the alliance between Konoha and the Sand Village. By then, he had already gained the recognition of many in the village. At 16, he defeated the Akatsuki's leader, Pain, using Sage Mode, and, in doing so, became the hero of Konoha. He was no longer just the Demon Fox's vessel, he had become a true warrior. Under Killer Bee's guidance, he mastered the Nine-Tails Chakra Mode, preparing for the greatest battle ahead. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, he formed a bond with Kurama, becoming a perfect Jinchuriki. He fought alongside his allies and even received the power of the Sage of Six Paths. Alongside Sasuke, he sealed Kagaya Otsutsuki, restoring peace to the ninja world. After the war, under Kakashi's reign as the sixth Hokage, Naruto recovered from his injuries and eventually became a Jonin. It was during this time that he realized his love for Hinata Hyuga. They fell in love, married, and built a happy family together. At 30, after Kakashi retired, Naruto achieved his lifelong dream. He became the seventh Hokage of Konohagakure. His friends had all married, had children, and found happiness. The world was finally at peace. Everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. Naruto sighed, clenching his fists. He had seen it coming. The Otsutsuki clan had returned. Kinshiki, Momoshiki, Urashiki, Ishiki, each stronger than the last. It was then that Naruto realized that compared to them, Kagaya had been nothing more than a mere prelude. During his battle against Ishiki Otsutsuki, he lost something invaluable, Kurama, his lifelong partner and comrade. And his best friend, Sasuke Uchiha, lost his Rinnegan, struck down by none other than Naruto's own son, Boruto. Though Boruto had been possessed at the time, the pain of watching Sasuke lose his greatest power was something Naruto could never forget. The battle escalated beyond anything they had ever imagined. As his own strength waned, Naruto sought out any means of resistance. Mount Myaboku. There, the great Toad Sage had spoken his final prophecy. Boruto will be the one to change the ninja world. Determined to protect the future, Naruto devoted himself to training Boruto. And Boruto did not disappoint. With the power of the Jogan, the legacy of the Otsutsuki, and Sasuke's guidance, Boruto inherited Sasuke's katana, cloak, and forehead protector. He surpassed all previous Hokage, becoming the strongest shinobi in the world. Or so they had thought. Until Kawaki arrived. At first, Kawaki was just another troubled child, bearing the same mark as Boruto. The two became close, forming a deep bond. Believing in him, Boruto brought Kawaki to Konoha, offering him a new path. But it all fell apart. Kawaki was manipulated by the Kara organization and turned against Boruto. His goal? To destroy the ninja world and resurrect the God Tree, reintroducing the infinite Tsukuyomi. Thus, the fifth great ninja war began. Naruto's fists clenched. He could still feel the devastation of that war. One by one, his friends, comrades, and loved ones fell. As Hokage, without Kurama, he was no longer the strongest. He was forced to watch as everyone fought for his sake. And then, they died. Hinata, Himawari, Sasuke, Gaara, Iruka-sensei, Kakashi-sensei, Shikamaru. The list went on and on. By the war's end, only he and Boruto remained. In his final moments, Naruto sacrificed himself, shielding Boruto from Kawaki's ultimate attack. Now, standing in this white void, Naruto felt an overwhelming sense of failure. Why? Why did it end like this? He looked up at the emptiness around him. What happened to Boruto? Did he save the ninja world? No, he failed. A deep voice echoed through the void. Naruto's eyes widened. He turned toward the source, watching as a figure emerged from the endless white. A familiar figure. Naruto's heart skipped a beat. Grandpa Sage of Six Paths? Hagoromo Akatsuki gave a calm, knowing smile. We meet again, Naruto Uzumaki, the child of prophecy. Naruto hurriedly stepped forward, his voice urgent. What do you mean? Kawaki and Boruto failed? Wasn't Kawaki aligned with the Akatsuki? Hagoromo sighed. After your death, Boruto and Kawaki fought. However, Kawaki eventually awakened. He understood the truth behind the infinite Tsukuyomi and chose to fight alongside Boruto. Together, they battled the Akatsuki. But in the end, both of them failed. They were merely vessels. Naruto's blood ran cold. His body trembled. His mind screamed in denial. No, this can't be real. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. Desperation surged in his voice as he shouted. The great Toad Sage's prophecy. He said Boruto would change the world. Why did it end like this? Why is the ninja world still doomed? As his words echoed into the void, Naruto felt his last shred of hope collapse. He staggered back, fell to his knees, and buried his face in his hands. Tears streamed down his cheeks. Why? Why did it all end like this? The once strong, unwavering seventh Hokage had never felt so utterly broken. Hagoromo gazed at Naruto in silence. Then, after a moment, he spoke again. The prophecy was never wrong. Naruto lifted his tear-streaked face. His blue eyes, filled with anguish, met Hagoromo's calm gaze. And in that moment fate began to change. The prophecy of the great Toad Sage was actually correct. These words from the Sage of Six Paths were like a flickering flame, igniting the hope that had nearly faded from Naruto's heart. Tears welled in his eyes as he stood up once more, his voice trembling but calm. What do you mean? The Sage of Six Paths smiled knowingly. Aren't you curious why you met me here? Naruto frowned. It didn't make sense. Didn't the Sage of Six Paths completely disappear after the Fourth Great Ninja War? Why was he appearing now? Then, a thought struck him. Naruto's eyes widened in realization as he turned toward the sage with renewed hope. The old sage nodded. Although Boruto did not defeat the Akatsuki clan, the great Toad Sage's prophecy was still accurate because Boruto did something extraordinary. He sent you to me. Naruto was stunned. You mean, I'm here because Boruto made it happen? The sage nodded. Yes, you did die in battle, Naruto, but your soul was preserved by Boruto's pure eye. The revelation sent a chill down Naruto's spine. Boruto's pure eye? The sage continued. Boruto carved the Akatsuki clan's forbidden technique into his own eyes in advance. When he was defeated and turned into a vessel, he gained an enormous amount of chakra that allowed the forbidden technique to activate instantly. Through an ancient Akatsuki artifact, he sacrificed himself to send your soul to me. Naruto's legs felt weak. His heart clenched at the realization. His son, his precious Boruto, had given up his own life to bring him here. Tears streamed down Naruto's face as he choked out. Boruto, my son. The Sage of Six Paths watched him mourn in silence before extending his right hand. In his palm lay a cracked artifact, pulsing faintly with residual chakra. Naruto's breath hitched. That's The Akatsuki's magic weapon, the plow. The sage nodded. Yes, using this plow, Naruto invoked the Akatsuki's forbidden technique to bring you here. But now, Naruto, you must make a choice, one that will determine the fate of the ninja world once again. Naruto's hands curled into fists as he stared at the broken artifact. The realization hit him like a storm. This was how Naruto would change the ninja world. But then, how did Naruto know all this? How did he know that sending Naruto to the Sage of Six Paths would change the future? And more importantly, how did Naruto learn the forbidden techniques of the Akatsuki clan? The Sage of Six Paths saw the confusion in Naruto's eyes and sighed. Before I answer your questions, Naruto, let me ask you one first. After everything you've seen, do you still believe in the path you once followed? Naruto fell silent. Then he slowly shook his head. To be honest, no. His voice was firm, devoid of hesitation. The Akatsuki clan is far too powerful. If we want to survive, we have to be willing to gain power at any cost. The Sage of Six Paths sighed deeply. The last time he had met Naruto during the Fourth Great Ninja War, he had asked him a similar question. What if Sasuke tries to unify the ninja world at all costs? Back then, Naruto's answer had been unwavering. He had chosen hope, fraternity, and understanding over power. But now, that Naruto no longer existed. The sage lowered his gaze. What my mother feared has finally come to pass. I was too short-sighted, and I was wrong after all. Naruto remained silent. Because he too had once believed in the sage's ideals. But after witnessing the tragedy of the ninja world, seeing his friends and family fall, he could never go back. The Naruto who had dreamed of peace was dead. After a moment of silence, the Sage of Six Paths gave a small, weary smile. But perhaps, there is still time to make things right. In that sense, Hamura's backup plan was correct. Naruto's eyes narrowed in confusion. Hamura? The sage nodded. I know you're wondering why Naruto seemed to know all this in advance. How he was so certain that sending you to me would change the future. Naruto nodded. Yeah, how did he know? The Sage of Six Paths took a deep breath. Long ago, I did not agree with my mother Kagaya's actions, so I sealed her on the moon. My younger brother, Hamura, stayed behind with his people to guard her. But in doing so, he spent countless years investigating something far more terrifying. Naruto's breath hitched. And that's when Hamura awakened, the pure eye. Naruto's heart pounded. The sage's eyes gleamed. Yes, the very same eye that Naruto awakened. The sage continued. Through his pure eye, Hamura discovered something truly frightening. The pure eye allowed him to occasionally glimpse fragments of time and space visions of the past and future. However, these glimpses were uncontrollable. It wasn't until he saw one particular vision that everything became clear. For the first time, Hamura understood why Kagaya had always looked up at the stars with fear. Why she had been so terrified. Because the Akatsuki clan beyond their world was real, and they were far more powerful than anyone had ever imagined. Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. The sage continued. Hamura immediately came to me and warned me. But at the time, I was not convinced. I believed in the world we had built. I thought, maybe there was a chance for peace. Naruto clenched his fists. So you decided to take a gamble. The sage nodded. Yes, I gambled that the ninja world could survive without pursuing greater power. But now, it's clear I was wrong. His expression darkened. Fortunately, Hamura prepared for this possibility. He left behind a backup plan, one that allowed Naruto to awaken the true potential of his eye. Naruto's breath caught in his throat. The sage raised his hand, forming an intricate seal in the air. Hamura's research revealed something incredible within the Akatsuki clan. The pure eye has another name. Naruto watched in awe as the seal glowed, revealing ancient symbols in the air. The sage's voice was solemn. It is called the Jogan. Jogan. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. The Sage of Six Paths nodded. Yes, the Jogan Eye. Through a forbidden technique of the Akatsuki clan and the divine artifact plow, a person's soul can be sent through time and space, returning to the past and reviving in their original body. Naruto listened intently as the sage continued. But this forbidden technique has strict conditions. 1. The user must possess a vast amount of chakra. 2. The caster must sacrifice their life. 3. The Jogan Eye can only be activated once, losing its light immediately after use. Naruto furrowed his brows. This technique sounded similar to the Six Paths, samsara of heavenly life technique, but with one major difference. This one resurrected the soul through time and space, restoring it to the original body. Something didn't add up. If Boruto only had one pure eye and could only use the technique once, why didn't he just send Naruto directly to the past? Why make him meet the sage first? Noticing Naruto's confusion, the sage of Six Paths explained. The Jogan that Boruto awakened is actually the power left behind by my brother, Hamura. Once Boruto fully developed his pure eye, the chakra my brother left behind was activated, just like how my chakra manifested within you and Sasuke. Hamura's spirit appeared within Boruto's soul, just as I am appearing before you now. Naruto's eyes widened in realization. My brother Hamura told Boruto everything. That's why Boruto intentionally lost and became a vessel to gain an immense amount of chakra. He had already inscribed the technique into his eye, ensuring its activation. Furthermore, he had obtained plow beforehand, which allowed him to send you here to me. The sage sighed. Sending you directly to the past would have been too dangerous. Time traveling can damage the soul, erase memories, or even strip away your will. That's why I am here to prepare you and ensure you remember your mission. A trace of regret flickered in the sage's expression. I already lost one gamble before. I cannot afford to lose another. Naruto clenched his fists, his emotions churning. So that's how it was. Boruto had become the key to his resurrection, fulfilling the great Toad Sage's prophecy of the one who would change the ninja world. And to ensure that he wouldn't lose his memories after resurrection, the sage had arranged this final meeting. Naruto took a deep breath and asked, "But Boruto's Jogan was used up to send me here. Even if I resurrect, how can I be sure I won't lose my memories?" The sage of Six Paths smiled. "How many eyes do you think my brother Hamura had?" Naruto blinked in confusion before gasping as an eye materialized in the sage's left hand. "This is the Jogan." The sage nodded. Hamura awakened both of his eyes. One was inherited by Boruto. The other was left with me as a backup plan. Naruto stared at him in disbelief. This man was both a reckless gambler and a meticulous strategist. He bet on fate, but still had plans A, B, and C in place. "Then what do I do now?" Naruto asked, determination burning in his gaze. The sage's expression grew serious. "The Jogan Eye technique can send you to the past, but the exact time period is uncertain. Right now, you're seeing me in this particular space-time by chance." He raised two fingers. "You have two choices. 1. I can use the technique to revive you in this exact time period where the Fourth Great Ninja War is still ongoing. 2. You can travel further into the past. However, I cannot control how far back you will go." The sage reassured him. "No matter what, I will use my yin-yang release to protect your soul and memories, ensuring they merge with your past self without any loss." Naruto's mind raced. "But Boruto didn't have yin-yang release, yet my soul still arrived here intact," he pointed out. The sage chuckled. "That's because Boruto's Jogan and the eye in my hand both belong to Hamura. They are connected. Your soul entered through Boruto's eye and exited through mine. That was Hamura's plan all along." Naruto exhaled slowly. "Then, what is the exact timeline of first option?" The sage of Six Paths replied, "The Fourth Ninja War. You and Sasuke are leading the allied shinobi forces against Uchiha Madara and Obito." Naruto's heart skipped a beat. "Then that means..." His expression turned grim. "Is Neji dead?" The sage's eyes softened. "Yes, he has already fallen in battle." A sharp pain stabbed Naruto's chest. Neji's final words echoed in his mind. "Because you called me a genius." Naruto clenched his fists. Even after all this time, Neji's death haunted him. But now he had a second chance. "I can travel back further than this moment, right?" Naruto asked, his voice resolute. The sage nodded. It was impossible to control exactly how far back he would go, but as long as it was before this war, he could save Neji. Naruto inhaled deeply, his decision clear. "I choose the second option," he declared. The sage of Six Paths looked at him for a long moment before nodding. Without another word, he raised his left hand, pressing the pure eye into his palm without removing his original Rinnegan. Naruto blinked. Wait, you can just install it like that? The sage smiled. This is the soul's form. There is no need to remove anything. He then formed intricate hand seals, chakra surging around him as he chanted. Joganai technique. A brilliant white light burst from his palm, enveloping Naruto in warmth. The light grew stronger and stronger, its intensity nearly blinding. Naruto turned to the sage, his vision flickering. The sage's form was fading, his body growing more transparent. Then it hit Naruto. One of the conditions of the technique was a life sacrifice. But the sage was already dead. Then, what exactly was being sacrificed? Realization dawned on Naruto's face. His mouth opened, but the sage simply smiled. Goodbye, Naruto. This time, for real. The future of the ninja world is in your hands. And with that, the sage of six paths vanished. Naruto's heart ached, but there was no time to dwell. The white light around him reached its peak, wrapping around his body like a cocoon ripping through time and space. In the final moments before everything faded to white, he saw Plow, the divine artifact, crumble into dust. Then, everything went dark. Chapter 2. Naruto's Decision Hashtag. It felt like I was having the best dream in a long time. A warm sensation spread across my body, as comforting as sunlight hitting my skin on a cold winter morning. Sunlight? Did I get reborn at home? As my consciousness slowly resurfaced, I became aware of my body. It didn't feel still, it was moving. No, it was running. Wait, my body's not at home. Where the hell am I? Suddenly, I heard myself speaking. Kiba, how is it? There was urgency in my voice, but why? I'm focusing on tracking Sasuke's faint scent. Don't distract me. That voice, Kiba, right? I had just called out to him. Tracking Sasuke's faint scent? Something clicked inside me. My memories felt like pages in a book being flipped through rapidly, searching for a specific moment in time. Then, everything stopped at one page. Shit, this is the time when I was searching for Sasuke. Realization struck like a lightning bolt. My entire soul jolted awake. In the real world, my body suddenly froze midair. 1 second, I was leaping through the forest, and the next, I was falling. Naruto. Kakashi, who had been right behind me, noticed something was wrong in an instant. In a blur of movement, he caught me before I hit the ground. The entire squad came to a halt. Sakura, Kiba, Shino, Hinata, Akamaru, and Captain Yamato rushed over. Sakura crouched down beside me, her brows furrowed in concern. What happened? Kakashi shook his head. I don't know. He was perfectly fine 1 second, and then he just collapsed. Let me check. Sakura had trained under Tsunade in medical ninjutsu. She quickly gestured for Kakashi to lay me down as she began her examination. Hinata kneeled beside me, her lavender eyes filled with worry. Inside my unconscious body, my soul was rapidly merging with my younger self. Meanwhile, in the real world, Sakura placed her hands on my chest and began applying CPR. Damn it, Naruto, wake up. After several compressions, she hesitated before turning toward the others. I might have to do mouth-to-mouth. Kiba, Captain Yamato, Kakashi-sensei, someone. Kiba's face twisted in horror. Why me? Yamato immediately raised his hands. Kakashi-senpai, you're the leader. You should do it. Kakashi casually turned to Kiba. As the youngest, this is a great learning experience for you. Screw you, sensei. Kiba groaned, leaning in with an expression of pure suffering. Just as his lips were inches away from mine. HNNGH-. I shot up, my eyes snapping open. The first thing I saw? Kiba's face, his lips twitching awkwardly as he hovered right above me like some kind of nightmarish wooden horse. A cold chill ran down my spine. T-tooth. Kiba's eyes went wide as he scrambled backward, practically tumbling over himself. Wait. Naruto, let me explain. It's not what you think. The guy was flailing his arms so much he looked like a drowning dog. Sakura told me to do it. I swear on Akamaru's tail. Neither Kakashi-sensei nor Yamato wanted to, so I blinked. Then it hit me, I was back. I was really back. I lifted my hands, staring at them. The fingers were thinner, smaller. I touched my face rounder. My body lighter. I'm a teenager again. Kakashi let out a breath of relief. You really scared me there, Naruto. Then his single visible eye narrowed. What the hell happened? A lump formed in my throat. Kakashi-sensei was alive. Memories of my past life surged forward seeing Kakashi die, sacrificing himself during the fight against the Akatsuki. Without thinking, I lunged forward and hugged him. Kakashi-sensei, it's so damn good to see you. Kakashi stiffened. Oh, okay. That's nice. He awkwardly patted my back. Did I miss something? Sakura frowned. Seriously, what the hell is wrong with you, Naruto? 1 second you're unconscious, and now you're acting all weird. I let go of Kakashi and grinned. Nah, it's nothing. Then my eyes widened. Crap. Sasuke. Kakashi chuckled. Yeah, that's what I was trying to remind you before you started clinging to me like a lost puppy. I turned toward my team, excitement buzzing through me. Sakura. She raised an eyebrow. Shino. Shino gave a small nod. Captain Yamato. Yamato blinked. Yeah? Kiba. Akamaru, you good, buddy? I ruffled the giant dog's fur. Akamaru barked happily. Sakura leaned toward Kakashi and whispered, Are you sure you caught him properly? I feel like he hit his head when he fell. Kakashi rubbed the back of his head. I think I did. I turned to Hinata, who had been watching silently. Our eyes met. Her lips parted slightly as she whispered, Naruto-kun, I'm so glad you're okay. A strange warmth surged through me. My heart pounded. Before I could stop myself, I stepped forward and grabbed her. And then, I kissed her. Deeply. Hinata froze. Her entire body stiffened in shock. Hinata looked at Naruto in horror, as if the world at this moment was unreal, until she saw Naruto-kun's closed eyes, leaving a line of hot tears. Hinata's heart felt as if something had hit her, and she slowly closed her eyes. As for the onlookers, absolute, utter silence. Yamato's mouth fell open. Shino's glasses slid down his nose. Kiba looked like he was about to collapse. Even Akamaru tilted his head in disbelief. Kakashi's eye twitched. Okay, I am no longer sure if I actually caught him. Then, what the hell, Naruto? Sakura's shriek echoed through the forest. Her fists clenched. You've been chasing me for years, and now you're suddenly all over Hinata? She stormed forward and swung a fist straight at my face. But this time, I caught it. Effortlessly. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Still holding Hinata in one arm, I looked at Sakura with a calm smile. Sorry, Sakura. I don't think I'll ever let you hit me again. Hinata, still in my embrace, had turned the color of a tomato, hands pressed shyly to her chest. The others? Still processing the absolute insanity that just unfolded. And me? I smirked. Yeah, I was definitely back. Haruno Sakura was stunned. Was this still the same Naruto she knew? She had hit him countless times before, and not once had he fought back or even blocked her. Even when she scolded him, he never dared to talk back. But now, he had not only blocked her punch. He had also just forcefully kissed Hinata. What the hell? Hadn't he always liked her? Sakura had always been in love with Sasuke, but she couldn't deny that a part of her had felt something unclear for Naruto. Yet, now, this meant that Naruto didn't like her at all. A strange emptiness settled in her heart. Naruto's tone and demeanor toward her were nothing like before. It was as if she had lost something without even realizing it. But Naruto wasn't paying attention to her. At this moment, he only had eyes for Hinata. He wanted to grab her, pull her into his arms, and shout at the world, She's my wife. What's wrong with me kissing her? The joy of reunion was overwhelming. Sensing the awkwardness in the air, Kakashi stepped forward and cleared his throat. All right. Naruto might have been too anxious about chasing Sasuke, so his mind must be a little off. Kakashi sighed, rubbing the back of his head. We need to move fast. Otherwise, Sasuke might disappear for good. Kiba, keep tracking his scent. At Kakashi's words, Naruto snapped out of his daze. Right. His rebirth wasn't just about Hinata. He had returned with a purpose. He had to change the entire shinobi world, gain the power to fight against the Akatsuki clan early, and most importantly make up for the regrets of his past life. Speaking of regrets, Naruto's gaze drifted back to Hinata, and a certain memory surfaced. Niji. He suddenly turned to Kakashi, urgency lacing his voice. Kakashi-sensei. Niji's with Guy-sensei on a mission right now, isn't he? Kakashi raised an eyebrow at the random question, but nodded. Yeah, Guy and his squad are on a mission outside the village. What? Naruto let out a deep breath, his fists clenching in overwhelming relief. Hell yeah. He punched the air, his blue eyes misting over. Niji is alive. This was the first regret he could make up for in this new life. Hinata, noticing the raw emotion on Naruto's face, hesitated for a second before pulling out a handkerchief from her pocket. Without saying a word, she reached up and gently wiped the tears from his cheek. Naruto blinked, then let out a small laugh. She was always like this. Even when she was nervous, she still worried about him first. Without thinking, he took her hand in his. Thanks, Hinata. From today on, I swear I'll protect you. No matter what, I won't let you get hurt again. Hinata's entire body stiffened. A forced kiss was one thing, but this? This was practically a confession. A full, undeniable declaration of love. Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely think. This is too sudden. She quickly pulled away, struggling to find her words. After a deep breath, she gathered her courage and looked at Naruto with a conflicted expression. But, Naruto-kun, haven't you always liked Sakura-chan? Her voice trembled. Why do you suddenly, like me? I mean, I'm nothing special. I cry all the time. I've made so many mistakes. What's so great about me that you want to protect me forever? Her fingers clenched at her sides. Deep down, she was terrified. She had loved Naruto for so long. If this was all just some joke, if he was only saying this because of some momentary emotion, could she handle that? Naruto's expression softened. Of course, I know, he murmured. His mind flashed back to the moment he faced pain. He had been pinned to the ground, unable to move. He was moments away from losing everything. Then, Hinata had stepped forward. Without hesitation, she had confessed her love, fought desperately to protect him, and risked her life against an opponent she had no chance of defeating. Naruto took a deep breath and looked at Hinata with unwavering determination. Those love words she once said to him. Now it was his turn. You've been crying since you were a kid, Naruto said softly. Hinata's breath hitched. Whenever something happened, you always wanted to give up, he continued. You lost your way more than once, but you never truly gave up, because every time you fell, you got back up. He stepped closer, his voice gentle yet firm. You've always chased after me, Naruto whispered. You've always wanted to catch up, to stand by my side, to be strong enough to walk the same path as me. Hinata's eyes widened in disbelief. How? How does he know all this? Had Naruto-kun really been paying attention to her all this time? Naruto gave her hand a light squeeze. Thank you, Hinata, he said, for always believing in me, for always liking me. He smiled. And honestly, I like you too. Hinata's heart shattered into a million emotions. Nah, Naruto-kun. She didn't even think. She threw herself at him, wrapping her arms around his waist and burying her face in his chest. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she clung to him, feeling the warmth and reality of his body. This was real. This was happening. The love words she once said to him. He had traveled across time and space, endured pain and regret, and returned just to say them back to her. Check out other novels. Naruto, I aspire to become Hokage man. Clap, clap. Shino stood to the side and suddenly started clapping his hands. Kiba, confused, turned to him and asked, Shino, what the hell are you doing? Shino adjusted his sunglasses slightly and replied, Nothing. I just felt like this moment deserved some applause. Kiba paused for a second, then nodded in agreement. Yeah, that actually makes sense. Meanwhile, Sakura stood still, staring at Naruto and Hinata, a complex mix of emotions swirling inside her. She had always known Hinata harbored feelings for Naruto, any girl could tell. But now, seeing them together, seeing Naruto reciprocate, it hit differently. Wasn't Naruto supposed to like her? Didn't he always chase after her, despite her constant rejections? She had always thought that, no matter what, Naruto would be there, looking at her, wanting her. But now, Naruto was looking at Hinata the way she had once wished Sasuke would look at her. A bitter feeling settled in her chest. As if sensing the mood, Yamato approached Kakashi with a teasing smirk. "Senpai, looks like we might have a wedding to attend in the near future." Kakashi sighed, rubbing the back of his head. Well, a happy event is a happy event, but Naruto really doesn't know how to pick the right time to fall in love. Does he? Despite the light-hearted words, Naruto wasn't lingering on emotions right now. The days ahead were long, and he had something far more important to take care of. Letting go of Hinata's hand gently, he smiled at her and said, "Sorry, Hinata, but I need to leave for a few days." Hinata blinked, startled. "I'll leave." Then, Naruto turned to Kakashi. "Sensei, I'm leaving the team temporarily. You guys can keep chasing after Sasuke." Kakashi's visible eye narrowed. "And where exactly do you think you're going, Naruto?" Everyone turned to look at him, surprised. Naruto knew how important retrieving Sasuke was, and yet, he was saying this? "I can't tell you," Naruto admitted, meeting Kakashi's gaze seriously. "But it's something I have to do. Please, just trust me on this." Sakura stepped forward, her voice tinged with frustration. "Is it more important than bringing Sasuke back?" Naruto hesitated. He couldn't explain everything to them. They wouldn't understand. Sasuke's life wasn't in immediate danger. His battle with Itachi was inevitable, and that was something he had to resolve on his own. But right now, there was someone else Naruto needed to catch up with. Jiraiya. He had to find him before it was too late. "I'm sorry, Sakura," Naruto finally said. "I just can't explain it right now, but I can tell you that Sasuke will be fine. I promise." Kakashi's eyes sharpened. "That's not good enough, Naruto. This is a critical mission, and as your captain, I can't just let you leave." He glanced at Yamato, who nodded. Without warning, with style, 4-pillar prison jutsu. Thick wooden walls shot up from the ground, forming a sturdy cage around Naruto, trapping him inside. Yamato's wood style wasn't just strong, it was one of the few techniques capable of restraining the Nine-Tails chakra. "Naruto," Kakashi said, his voice calm but firm, "we're not trying to stop you without reason. You need to explain why you're doing this." Hinata, looking anxious, stepped forward. "Please, Sensei, Naruto-kun must have a reason. He wouldn't just dash." "I know, Hinata," Kakashi interrupted, his voice softer. "But that doesn't change the fact that we can't let him just walk away." Sakura watched Naruto closely. Something about him felt different. He wasn't arguing. He wasn't protesting. Instead, he was completely still. Then, she realized his eyes were closed. He was concentrating. Kakashi also noticed. His expression darkened. Wait, could it be? A sudden burst of chakra erupted from within the wooden prison. A powerful wave of energy exploded outward, shattering Yamato's structure into splinters. The force was immense. Kakashi and Yamato barely had time to react before Naruto vanished from the cage, appearing atop a nearby tree. Orange pigmentation had formed around his eyes. His expression was calm, yet undeniably powerful. Sage mode. Yamato's eyes widened in disbelief. What? How is that possible? My wood style should have suppressed his chakra dash. Kakashi stared at Naruto in shock. Sage mode? But how? Naruto smirked, but there was no arrogance in it, only confidence. Sorry, Kakashi-sensei. I can't explain this either. Then, with one last glance at his team, he turned and took off into the trees. Wait, Naruto, Sakura called out, stepping forward. But Kakashi grabbed her wrist, stopping her. Sakura turned, looking at him in confusion. Kakashi exhaled, his eye filled with something close to resignation. We can't stop him, he admitted. Not anymore. Naruto's strength had surpassed every single person here. Even if they wanted to stop him, they couldn't. More than that, Kakashi trusted him. Something big was happening. He didn't know what, but he knew Naruto had a reason. Sighing, Kakashi pulled out a communication scroll, quickly writing down everything that had happened. He handed it to Pakin, his ninja dog, who took off toward Konoha to deliver the message to Tsunade. We're continuing the mission, Kakashi announced, looking at the team. Naruto made his decision. Now, we make ours. Hinata bit her lip, looking toward the direction Naruto had gone. Then, silently, she turned and followed her team. Somewhere in the forest, Naruto, still in sage mode, leaped swiftly from branch to branch, his enhanced senses picking up even the slightest movement. His mind was focused. Jiraiya was his priority. But then, Naruto froze. Something was wrong. A familiar, yet ominous chakra signature entered his range. His eyes narrowed. Adjusting his path, he changed direction. Finally, he landed on the ground, standing still in the dense shadows of the trees. Then, without hesitation, he spoke. "Come out, Uchiha Itachi." A heavy silence filled the air. Then, from the shadows, a pair of crimson-red Sharingan eyes slowly opened. A rustling sound followed as a dark silhouette stepped forward. Uchiha Itachi had arrived. "Uchiha Itachi, I want to talk to you." Naruto spoke directly, cutting to the point. Uchiha Itachi was a little surprised. Why did Naruto approach him on his own initiative? He looked at the blonde shinobi and asked, "You want to talk to me?" Naruto nodded. "If you didn't want to talk to me, why would you come looking for me?" Itachi frowned. Yes, he had come searching for Naruto. Just moments ago, he was tracking traces of Naruto's chakra, yet Naruto had appeared before him first. Moreover, how did Naruto know he was searching for him? With a slightly confused expression, Itachi asked, "What do you want to talk about? And how did you know I was looking for you?" Naruto stared at the man before him, the same man who, in order to protect Konoha and his younger brother Sasuke, had slaughtered his own clan with his own hands. He carried a reputation of infamy, living in the shadows as a member of the Akatsuki. It wasn't easy. After becoming Hokage in his previous life, Naruto had learned the truth. Itachi was a victim of the village's political struggles. He had sacrificed everything for the sake of peace. Even now, before his inevitable battle with Sasuke, Itachi had come to check on him, ensuring both Sasuke's safety and Konoha's stability. Naruto wanted to change that. Looking directly at Itachi, Naruto said, "I admire you, Itachi. I really do. I won't beat around the bush. I want to convince you to give up your fight with Sasuke and live. I will change things in the future, and I want you to be there for it." Itachi's usually unreadable expression flickered slightly. He hadn't expected such words from Naruto. Seeing Itachi's reaction, Naruto continued, "I already know the truth about the Uchiha massacre, and I know you came here to see how I treat Sasuke." Naruto spoke calmly, but to Itachi, his words were nothing short of shocking. His Sharingan spun slightly before shifting into the Mangekyo. He couldn't believe it. For a brief moment, an impulse to silence Naruto rose within him. If Naruto knew the truth, he could be a liability. Itachi couldn't afford to take risks. But the killing intent disappeared just as quickly as it came. Naruto only smiled, unfazed. Itachi's reaction was understandable. Anyone else in his position would have either panicked or lashed out. But Itachi had mastered his emotions in a matter of seconds. As expected of Konoha's prodigy. After a brief silence, Itachi let out a quiet sigh. His lips curled into a faint, bitter smile. "Naruto, you continue to surprise me. But since you already know why I came here, I'd like to hear your answer." Naruto's gaze didn't waver. "Sasuke is my brother. No matter what happens, even if he turns against Konoha, I will protect him. I am confident that I can bring him back from the wrong path." Itachi studied him for a long moment. Then he asked, "And what if Sasuke refuses? What if he becomes determined to destroy Konoha?" Naruto didn't hesitate. "I swear on my life I will bring Sasuke back." Itachi closed his eyes briefly before exhaling through his nose. He already had his answer. As long as Naruto had this determination toward Sasuke, that was all that mattered. Besides, Itachi had his own trump card, Kotoame Tsukumi. Seeing the small, almost imperceptible smile on Itachi's face, Naruto knew he had succeeded in gaining his trust. But there was still one thing left to address. "What about my proposal?" Naruto asked. "Will you abandon your fight with Sasuke?" Itachi's expression turned solemn again. After a few seconds, he shook his head. "I'm sorry, Naruto. I cannot promise that. I still have to fight Sasuke." Naruto clenched his fists. "Why do you have to die? Why won't you just tell Sasuke the truth? He's your only family." Itachi's eyes darkened. "I am a sinner, Naruto. From the moment I slaughtered my clan, I was destined to die. If I live, the stain of the Uchiha massacre will never fade. There are those who would use my survival as a tool to sow discord in Konoha. If I die by Sasuke's hand, the village will see him as a hero." Naruto's heart ached. He already knew this was how Itachi thought, but hearing him say it aloud still felt suffocating. He let out a slow breath. So, you decided to die by your brother's hand. That way, Sasuke becomes a hero, and you dash Naruto's voice lowered. You get some kind of redemption? Itachi regarded him silently, as if seeing a reflection of himself. How does he know me so well? When you meet a close friend, 1,000 cups of wine are too few. After the conversation had reached this point, Itachi felt there was no need to hide anything anymore. I have a terminal illness, and I don't have much time left. I'm only surviving because of medicine, Itachi admitted. It would be better to do this than die in vain. Naruto was a little surprised. He really hadn't known about this in his past life. Sasuke had rarely spoken about his brother. What he knew was mostly what Obito had said while wearing the mask and what Kakashi had told him. No wonder Itachi had been so determined at that time, insisting on choosing to die at Sasuke's hands. It turns out that life waits for no one. From the looks of it, Itachi only had a few days left to live. In this case, Naruto no longer concealed anything. He looked at Itachi and said, "Itachi, aren't you curious about how I know all this? I'll tell you the truth, I traveled back from the future." Itachi frowned, clearly not believing him. Naruto continued, "Are you planning to pull me into your Jinjutsu world later, then have the crow with Shirsui's I go down my throat, and stay hidden inside me? Then, you'll cast a Jinjutsu to make me forget about it for now, right?" Itachi was shocked. "Your purpose is that in the future, if Sasuke ever tries to destroy Konoha, I'll definitely stop him. At that moment, the crow will emerge, activating Kodo Amatsukami from Shirsui's eye, making Sasuke protect Konoha, right?" Itachi's eyes widened slightly. He was stunned. How does Naruto know my exact plan? Could it be that he was caught in a Jinjutsu, and Naruto had entered his mind? Impossible. The strongest Jinjutsu user, Shirsui, was already dead. If Itachi himself claimed second place in Jinjutsu, then no one else could claim first. If it's not Jinjutsu, then this can only be reality. "Are you really from the future?" Itachi asked, his voice measured but serious. Naruto nodded solemnly. Itachi hesitated for a moment before asking tentatively, "How is Sasuke in the future?" Naruto smiled. "He returned to Konoha. He and I are brothers. Moreover, I became Hokage, and he's my right-hand man. He also married Sakura and had a daughter named Sarada. She's really cute. She and my son, Boruto, actually get along pretty well. If you were here." Naruto suddenly stopped talking. Right. Itachi was terminally ill. This was a dead end. Itachi smiled, his expression unreadable. Naruto's expression darkened. "Is there really no way to cure you?" Itachi shook his head. Naruto took a deep breath, then made a request to Itachi. Itachi frowned slightly. "What is it?" Naruto looked at him seriously. "Please engrave Kodo Amatsukami into Shirsui's eye, ensuring that when activated, the person under its influence follows my will without realizing it." Itachi's brows furrowed. "Do you intend to use it on Sasuke?" Naruto shook his head firmly. "No, please believe me. Sasuke returned to Konoha because of my influence. I didn't use any techniques on him. Sasuke is my brother. I would never manipulate him." Itachi was moved. "Sasuke is my brother. I will never use any jutsu on him." Naruto's words felt like they were spoken by his own past self. Itachi was deep in thought. Today's conversation had exceeded all his expectations, especially with Naruto claiming to have traveled through time. After thinking for a while, Itachi finally spoke. "Naruto, I choose to believe in you. And I choose to believe in my foolish little brother, Sasuke." Saying that, Itachi summoned a crow, its eye glistening with Shirsui's transplanted Sharingan. The bird landed on his hand. Activating his Mangekyo Sharingan, Itachi focused his power on the crow's eye. More than 10 seconds passed. Itachi closed his eyes, his entire body trembling slightly. His chakra was significantly drained, and he almost lost his balance. Clearly, carving a Jinjutsu of such power into Shirsui's eye had taken a severe toll on him. Then, taking out a summoning scroll, he threw it to Naruto. "I've engraved Kodo Amatsukami into Shirsui's eye. The remaining eye power is only enough for one activation. As for how you use it, that's up to you." The crow flapped its wings and flew over, landing on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto took the summoning scroll, looked at Itachi, and sincerely said, "Thank you." Itachi opened his weary, bloodshot eyes and met Naruto's gaze. Is everything you said about the future true? Naruto nodded firmly. Itachi smiled slightly, then turned and walked away. Watching Itachi's retreating back, Naruto's emotions were complicated. It turns out that some things cannot be changed, even with a second chance. With that thought, Naruto sealed the crow into the scroll and carefully stored it away. He was about to leave quickly. Meanwhile, as Itachi walked away, a gentle smile appeared on his face. His vision blurred slightly, but he didn't mind. If what Naruto said was true, then it really was a happy ending. So her name is Sarada? I wonder if she's as cute as Sasuke was as a child. I wonder if she'll be like Sasuke when he was young, pestering me every day to teach her shuriken techniques. If I don't have time, I could always just tap her forehead. Thinking of this, Itachi smiled with genuine warmth from the bottom of his heart. He really wished he could live to see that future with his own eyes. Amigakure, Hidden Rain Village. Tendo Pain stood atop a high platform, his Rinnegan scanning the rain-soaked village below. His expression remained unreadable as the continuous downpour concealed the streets beneath a misty haze. Conan, once the rain stops, use your technique to locate the intruder, he ordered calmly. Behind him, Conan nodded, already forming the necessary hand seals. Leave it to me, she replied. With that, Tendo Pain began weaving signs, dispelling the rain tiger at will technique that had been covering the entire Hidden Rain Village. This jutsu was a large-scale sensory technique that allowed Pain to monitor every chakra signature caught in the rain. The moment someone entered the village, their presence would be instantly known. The instant Jiraiya emerged from the toad's mouth beneath the water, Pain noticed him. A powerful and unfamiliar chakra signature had appeared within the village, confirming his suspicions. Thus, he halted the rain, allowing Conan to use her unique abilities to track the intruder. With a final seal, the rain ceased. Here we go, Pain murmured. Conan immediately leapt into action. The dance of the Shikigami began. Her body dissolved into countless sheets of paper, each fluttering in the air before folding into intricate origami butterflies. The moment the rain stopped, these paper butterflies swarmed outward, spreading across the entire village like a silent, all-seeing eye. Meanwhile, Jiraiya had taken refuge inside a makeshift tavern, an illusion created using Toad transformation technique. Acting as a bartender, he had already captured 2 Amigakure shinobi, binding them for interrogation. One of the captured men, stubborn and defiant, refused to speak. Jiraiya sighed dramatically before using the Toad gourd prison technique. With a poof of smoke, the unfortunate ninja was transformed into a small, wriggling frog. His companion, a nervous-looking man wearing a turban, stared in horror as his ally croaked helplessly. Before Jiraiya could even lift a finger, the terrified shinobi broke down, spilling everything he knew. Through the interrogation, Jiraiya discovered something shocking. Hanzo the salamander, once hailed as a demigod, was dead. Hanzo, the man who had nearly crushed Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Tsunade in their youth, granting them the title of the legendary Sannin, had been killed by Pain. The turban ninja spoke with awe. Lord Pain is a god. His power is absolute. His will is unshakable. Jiraiya frowned, absorbing this information. Hanzo was no pushover. For someone to not only surpass him, but completely overthrow him. This Pain was no ordinary enemy. Despite pressing for more, the captured ninja knew little else. He was just a grunt. Jiraiya made his decision. Before confronting this self-proclaimed god, he had one last thing to do. Leaving the illusionary tavern, he headed to a hidden shrine within Amigakure. There, he unsealed a scroll from within his stomach, a precautionary measure he'd taken before entering enemy territory. Inside the scroll was the key to the Nine-Tails seal. Summoning Giratora, the scroll toad, Jiraiya imprinted his chakra onto it. If things went south, he wanted this key to be delivered to Naruto. Take this back to Konoha, Jiraiya instructed. Find a Biki. He already knows what to do. Giratora nodded. Are you sure about this, Jiraiya? Jiraiya simply smiled. Just in case. The toad croaked before diving into the water and disappearing. With that final precaution taken, Jiraiya turned his attention back to the village. It was time to meet this so-called god. Jiraiya, still in disguise as the turban ninja, moved carefully through the streets. His plan was simple: blend in and get closer to Pain's headquarters. But he wasn't alone. From the shadows, Conan's paper butterflies trailed behind, silently watching his every move. High above, Conan materialized from the darkness, her unreadable gaze locked onto her former master. "It's him," she murmured. "It's Jiraiya." Beside her, a man with long, auburn hair listened in silence before closing his eyes. When he spoke, there was a trace of something almost nostalgic in his voice. "Jiraiya-sensei, it's been a long time." Conan's expression didn't change. "What should we do, Pain?" The long-haired man's eyes opened, Rinnegan shining coldly in the dim light. His voice was devoid of hesitation. "He's no longer our ally. There's nothing left to discuss. Kill him." Conan gave a small nod. "Understood. I'll fight him first. You can finish him off when you arrive." Pain's voice was calm, yet absolute. "If you can kill him yourself, do so." With that, he leapt into the night, following Conan's paper trail. Meanwhile, Jiraiya's cover was blown. As he walked along a deserted alleyway, thousands of paper fragments suddenly surrounded him. In an instant, they wrapped around his controlled puppet, the turban ninja, binding him completely. From within the swirling paper storm, Conan emerged. With a flick of her wrist, the paper folded into razor-sharp spears. Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. "So, you were following me all along, huh?" Without hesitation, Conan attacked. "Die, Jiraiya." Her paper blades shot forward. But at the last moment, fire style, flame bullet. A burst of searing flames erupted from Jiraiya's mouth, engulfing the paper weapon's midair. The flames spread rapidly, licking at Conan's form and forcing her backward. She landed against the alley wall, her expression still unreadable even as the fire burned away some of her paper. Smoke filled the narrow street. From behind, Jiraiya emerged, stepping out from the ground itself. Toad flatness shadow manipulation technique. Conan immediately recognized the jutsu. "I originally set a trap to lure Pain, but I didn't expect you to fall into it." Jiraiya stood calmly, his eyes scanning the floating woman before him. "It seems that your ninjutsu has become sharper. You've grown into quite the formidable woman, Conan." He smiled, his voice carrying a strange mix of nostalgia and disappointment. "I just didn't expect you to still be alive and to have turned into a being of paper." The hooded ninja, seizing the moment, shouted desperately, "You are the angel, right? This man is an intruder. He's controlling me. Angel." Conan, hovering above, spread her paper wings. The two rose, fanning out like the wings of a divine being. She cast her sharp gaze downward at the two figures below. "I understand. Step aside," she ordered. The hooded ninja wasted no time. As if pardoned from execution, he bolted from the scene. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes, his gaze never leaving her. "Conan, if you've become like this, does that mean you truly are an angel? And if you're alive, and you're not Pain, then that means Nagato and Yahiko might not be dead either. If I'm guessing correctly, you're the so-called angel, and that god, the one known as the Deva Path of Pain, he must be one of them." Conan's expression remained cold. "What's the point of saying this now?" Jiraiya gritted his teeth. "So it's true then." Conan's voice was devoid of emotion as she declared, "This is the will of God. You will die here." Without hesitation, she activated her paper shuriken technique. The wings on her back transformed into thousands of razor-sharp paper blades, launching toward Jiraiya like a relentless storm of bullets. Jiraiya reacted instantly, weaving signs before spewing out a torrent of flames. Fire dragon flame bullet. The scorching blaze erupted from his mouth, incinerating countless paper shurikens in midair. But the assault was relentless. He rolled on the ground, evading the remaining projectiles before flipping back onto his feet. His hands moved swiftly once again, and this time, he exhaled a thick stream of liquid toad oil bullet. The sticky oil splattered across the battlefield, drenching Conan. Her paper wings trembled, and suddenly, her attack halted. Jiraiya straightened, watching her struggle with an unreadable expression. His fingers formed a quick seal, and in an instant, his long white hair extended, shooting toward her like living tendrils. The strands wrapped around her, binding her in place. "Once you're covered in oil, your paper techniques become useless, Conan," Jiraiya stated grimly. Conan remained silent. Jiraiya's voice softened as he spoke again. I remember. You were always the gentlest among the three of you. What happened, Conan? What are Nagato and Yahiko doing? Why did they create a god, like Pain, who only brings death and destruction? Conan's gaze was unreadable. When she finally spoke, there was an edge of bitterness beneath her cold tone. Why are you appearing in front of us now? There was something else in her voice, an accusation, perhaps a hidden grievance. Jiraiya didn't seem to catch it. His face darkened as he said, If you weren't members of the Akatsuki, I wouldn't have had to come here at all. I thought you were all dead. I never imagined it would turn out like this. Conan let out a dry, humorless chuckle. Perhaps you should have listened to Orochimaru back then. If you had just killed the three of us, none of this would have happened. Jiraiya's brows furrowed, genuine sorrow flickering across his face. I never even considered killing you three. He took a slow breath. I only wanted to teach you how to survive in this cruel world. But now here we are. You're my students, and yet you attack me without hesitation. It's disappointing. Conan's expression didn't change, but her voice was firm. You don't understand us at all, Jiraiya-sensei. Jiraiya clenched his fists. Then explain it to me. What happened to you? Why did you join the Akatsuki? Don't you see that what you're doing is wrong? That's the conclusion we came to ourselves, sensei. The sudden voice came from above. Jiraiya's head snapped up. Standing above Conan, a tall figure loomed, his long auburn hair flowing as he gazed down at Jiraiya with impassive Rinnegan eyes. Jiraiya narrowed his own eyes. Even though his appearance had changed drastically, there was no mistaking that gaze. That ripple-patterned eye. Nagato, Jiraiya muttered. So, you really are Pain. You've taken the Akatsuki's ideology as your own. What happened to you? Nagato no. Pain remained expressionless. You don't need to know. Without another word, he formed a hand seal. A massive sealing formula spread across the wall behind him. Summoning jutsu. With a thunderous bang, a massive crab emerged, clicking its pincers aggressively. Immediately, it spewed forth a flood of foam, engulfing both Conan and Jiraiya. Jiraiya's instincts screamed at him. He leaped back, landing on the wall just in time. His eyes flicked toward Conan, who was now free from the toad oil. Pain's strategy was clear. So you used the foam to wash off the oil? Clever, Jiraiya admitted, a tinge of pride in his voice. The crab dissipated just as suddenly as it had appeared. Conan flew back to Pain's side. Conan, step back, Pain ordered. Conan hesitated for a moment before obeying, dissolving into a swarm of paper sheets and vanishing into the shadows. Pain wasted no time. Another seal was formed, and with another bang, a new creature emerged, a massive lobster with jagged claws, charging toward Jiraiya with deadly intent. Jiraiya didn't flinch. His lion's mane jutsu activated, his hair extending and wrapping around the beast, tightening instantly. Boom. The summoned creature was crushed and dissipated in a puff of smoke. Jiraiya seized the opening. His hair surged forward like a poisonous serpent, extending through the mist left behind by the creature. In an instant, the strands wrapped around Pain's body, restraining him. Jiraiya's voice was urgent. Nagato, I need to know. What happened to Yahiko? Pain's response was chilling. Oh, that name. Has such a person ever existed? Jiraiya's heart clenched. Nagato had once sworn to protect Yahiko and Conan, no matter what. Now, he spoke as though Yahiko had never even mattered. Jiraiya stared at him, his mind racing. What happened to you? Is this a barrier? The long-haired man looked around warily. Suddenly, the stones beneath his feet corroded and collapsed, forcing him to leap into the air. At that moment, Shima, standing on Jiraiya's right shoulder, extended her tongue and wrapped it around a wall pillar to anchor him. Jiraiya quickly formed a Rasengan in his left hand and charged straight at the long-haired man. Rasengan. The spiraling sphere struck the man's chest, blasting him directly into the acid pool inside the barrier. Jiraiya landed on a stone platform above the corrosive pool, crouching slightly as he observed the bubbling acid below. His breathing was heavy. Dragged him into the barrier, finally killed one. The battle had been brutal. First, Jiraiya faced the long-haired man alone. To subdue him, he had to enter Sage mode and summon Fukasaku and Shima, the two great toad sages. But summoning required both hands, leaving him vulnerable. The long-haired man had summoned multiple creatures to attack him in the meantime. Toad Gamakin had been summoned to assist, but the enemy's summons were relentless one after another. They kept coming. Jiraiya barely held on until he fully entered Sage mode. Gamakin, battered and bruised, had apologized before leaving, blaming himself for being ineffective. But in reality, he had fought just as fiercely. Later, Jiraiya encountered 3 paths of pain. With the help of the 2 sages, he managed to defeat them. Just as he thought it was over, a 4th path of pain, the Azura path, suddenly appeared behind him. Damn it, a sneak attack. And then it spoke. Sensei, you should never let your guard down against any opponent. Jiraiya had said those very words before. But this time, he was the one who had been careless. Boom. His left arm was blasted off by the attack. Blood sprayed from the remaining stump, staining the water below as he fell into the sea. Cough. Jiraiya clutched his left side in agony. Fukasaku's voice was filled with alarm. Boy, your left arm. The remaining 5 paths of pain emerged, and the battle resumed. Jiraiya fought with all he had, but was ultimately struck down and sent plunging into the water. In a last-ditch effort, he used a barrier technique to trap the long-haired man inside a toad gourd prison, severing the link between him and the other pains. Jiraiya emerged from the shadows for a surprise attack, taking him on one-on-one. Rasengan. The spiraling sphere struck the enemy's chest, sending him crashing into the acid pool. Jiraiya stood over the pit, gasping for air. His right arm throbbed with unbearable pain. Fukasaku nodded in approval. Well done, Jiraiya. But then, splash. The long-haired man leaped out of the acid pool. His right hand shot forward, a slender chakra black rod extending from his sleeve, aimed straight at Jiraiya. Jiraiya instinctively raised his right hand to block it. Stab. The rod pierced straight through his arm and shoulder. Instantly, Jiraiya felt his strength draining. He coughed up blood and collapsed against the wall, panting. The long-haired man finally succumbed to his injuries, his lifeless body falling forward. Shima, still perched on Jiraiya's shoulder, cried out in concern. Jiraiya, are you all right? Jiraiya took a shaky breath, spitting out blood. I can still fight. His arm trembled as he struggled to snap the black rod. But the moment he broke it off, a sharp, unsettling sensation coursed through him. The remaining black rod embedded in his body pulsed with an eerie chakra. Jiraiya shuddered, his voice weak. My chakra, it's being disrupted. Fukasaku peered at the black rod with a serious expression. This thing is interfering with your chakra flow. Without hesitation, he yanked the remaining piece out of Jiraiya's body and tossed it aside. Shima, still in shock, muttered, Who the hell are these guys? Their bodies are weird. Their weapons are even weirder. Can they even be considered human? Jiraiya, still struggling to stay upright, recalled the words of the turban-wearing ninja he once met. No one has ever seen him. No one knows what he looks like. Some even say he doesn't exist at all. A sinking feeling gripped his heart. The face of the Deva path was unmistakable Yahiko. But Yahiko never had the Rinnegan. Then, something unexpected happened. The headband of the dead long-haired man, its bindings corroded by the acid, slipped off, revealing his forehead. Jiraiya took a closer look. His eyes widened in shock. He recognized him. Chapter 3, The Son of Prophecy. Fukasaku and Shima, perched on Jiraiya's left and right shoulders, immediately asked, What's wrong? Jiraiya took a deep breath and explained. This guy isn't Yahiko at all, he's from the Fuma clan. I ran into him once before, and the mark on his forehead is from a scratch I gave him during our fight. He's definitely not Nagato. A bold guess formed in Jiraiya's heart. He needed to confirm it. The people outside. Jiraiya clenched his fists. He had to take another look. Ma, Pa, I need to go back out there. Shima gasped in shock. What? No. Fukasaku shook his head firmly. Jiraiya-chan, if you go back out now, you'll likely be killed. Run while you still can, before the enemy notices this place. Jiraiya looked down at the long-haired man's corpse in front of him. He had a gut feeling that this was the difficult choice the great Toad Sage had warned him about. If I don't go now, we might never have another chance to get this close to discovering Pain's true identity. He turned to them. Ma, Pa, please take this body and the intel we've gathered back to Konoha. Let Tsunade know everything. Fukasaku glanced at Jiraiya before breaking into a small smile. That's something Ma can do on her own. Jiraiya was caught off guard. But dash. Shima turned to Fukasaku. Be back before dinner. Fukasaku nodded at her. After this is over, we'll eat together with Jiraiya-chan. Shima smiled, nodding in approval. Jiraiya felt a lump in his throat. Even at this life-or-death moment, Fukasaku was willing to stay by his side. Thank you. I can't say it enough. On the sea, the 5 paths of pain were still searching for any trace of Jiraiya. Among them, Azura Path carefully scanned the surroundings. Beneath the water, a small frog surfaced. As it neared the surface, it opened its mouth, and Jiraiya and Fukasaku emerged, quickly hiding behind a stone structure. Fukasaku immediately summoned a shuriken and hurled it. Azura Path, seeing it through the shared vision of the Rinnegan, dodged with ease. At the same time, the other 4 paths of pain arrived, surrounding Jiraiya completely. Jiraiya's eyes widened as he took in their faces. So it's true. He recognized every single one of them. He had finally uncovered Pain's true identity. Just as he was about to speak to Fukasaku, 4 of the paths suddenly leaped into the air. At the same moment, a hand shot up from beneath the water like a ghost, lightning fast, reaching for Jiraiya's throat. Their goal was clear-crush Jiraiya's throat before he could reveal the truth. The airborne paths each wielded black rods, ready to finish him off. Right as Azura Path's hand was about to clamp around Jiraiya's throat, a kunai appeared beside him in a flash. Buzz. A figure materialized out of thin air, gripping the kunai. Rasengan. With a roar, the Rasengan slammed into Azura Path, sending it spiraling into the sea. Deva Path's expression darkened. When did reinforcements arrive? The 4 paths in the air prepared to strike, but before they could move, a loud buzzing filled the air. Sage Art. Wind Release. Raisen Shuriken. A massive, swirling wind release technique detonated just above Jiraiya's head. Deva Path did not let Preta Path absorb it. Instead, he immediately activated Shinra Tensei, repelling the attack straight downward toward Jiraiya. The sheer force of the wind release created a raging vortex on the sea surface, slicing through the air. The 4 airborne paths were blocked by the aftermath, unable to deliver the final blow to Jiraiya. It takes time to absorb ninjutsu. Jiraiya could escape in that time. So instead of absorbing it, Deva Path used Shinra Tensei to redirect it toward Jiraiya, ensuring his death. But what Deva Path did not expect. As the Raisen Shuriken exploded, another figure appeared behind Jiraiya. Grabbing him in one swift motion, the figure disappeared with a buzz before the attack could land. Boom. The wind release explosion raged across the sea, tearing through the water like a tornado, its sheer force leaving deep scars across the surface. The 4 paths leaped higher into the air, surveying the area. Deva Path narrowed his eyes. What a powerful wind release. Who did this? Not far away, Jiraiya, now cradled in a firm grip, looked up in shock. Naruto. Naruto's tears wouldn't stop flowing. He just kept staring at Jiraiya, unable to speak. When Jiraiya finally called his name, Naruto snapped back to reality. His voice trembled as he whispered through his tears. From now on, when I buy popsicles, there'll always be someone to share them with. As the force of Naruto's wind release, Raisen Shuriken dissipated, the 4 remaining paths of pain collapsed onto the water. The Naraka Path placed its hand on the surface, then stood up and shook its head. Deva Path tilted its head slightly and stated expressionlessly, because the Azura Path is a mechanized puppet, it was completely destroyed by the Rasengan. Its remains spiraled into the sea, sank, and can no longer be detected. It turned out that the Azura Path had been utterly annihilated by a Rasengan launched by one of Naruto's shadow clones. The remains had sunk into the depths of the ocean, making them impossible to recover or restore. Meanwhile, Naruto had caught Jiraiya himself. The Sage Art, wind-release Raisen Shuriken had been thrown by 2 of his shadow clones from a distance. The kunai that had flown past earlier bore the Flying Thunder God formula, a technique passed down from his father, the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze. In his previous life, Naruto had become Hokage. After losing Kurama and his ability to use Flying Raijin through the Ninetales chakra mode, he had trained to master his father's Flying Thunder God technique to make up for his lost speed. On his way to rescue Jiraiya, he had already prepared for this. Unexpectedly, it had come in handy. Naruto gently lowered Jiraiya onto solid ground and asked with concern, "Can you still move, pervy sage?" Before Jiraiya could respond, Fukasaku suddenly interrupted, his eyes narrowing in shock. He looked at the orange pigmentation around Naruto's eyes, sniffed the air, and exclaimed, "Kid, who are you? How do you know Sage Mode?" Naruto turned to the elder Toad and was about to greet him, but then he realized Master Fukasaku hasn't met me yet at this point. Jiraiya, still catching his breath, noticed the changes in Naruto as well. The orange pigmentation around his eyes. That was the mark of Sage Mode. And Naruto's appearance hadn't changed much, which meant he had completely mastered Sage Mode. More than that, the kunai on the ground bore the Flying Thunder God seal, a technique belonging to the fourth Hokage. This kid, when did he even learn his father's jutsu? And Sage Mode on top of that. Who the hell taught him all this? Despite his injuries, Jiraiya couldn't suppress his shock. He turned to Fukasaku and said weakly, "Fukasaku, this is my other apprentice. His name is Naruto." Fukasaku's eyes widened. "What? Another disciple?" Tendo Pain, the leader of the Six Paths, focused his Rinnegan on Naruto and stated coldly, "You are the Ninetales Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Naruto." Unlike Fukasaku, who was unfamiliar with Naruto, the Akatsuki had been collecting Jinchuriki for years. Naturally, they had gathered intel on him. Naruto clenched his fists, his blue eyes locking onto Pain then shifting to Jiraiya's broken arm. Seeing his sensei in this condition, even though he had forgiven Pain in his previous life, at this moment, Naruto wanted nothing more than to destroy him with his own hands. His chakra flared violently. "I've already forgiven you before, but seeing my teacher like this with my own eyes, I swear, if we meet again, I'll crush you with my own hands." A heavy killing intent surged from Naruto. Jiraiya quickly stepped in, his voice strained. "Naruto, don't lose yourself in revenge. Leave now. These bodies, they aren't the real Pain. They're just corpses being controlled. The real Pain is Dash." "I know." Naruto's voice was calm but firm. Jiraiya froze. Naruto stepped beside him, supporting his weight. He turned back to Tendo Pain, his expression unreadable. "Nagato, I'll be coming for you soon. Once I ensure my sensei's safety, I'll settle this personally. I'll remind you of everything you abandoned and prove to you that your beliefs are meaningless." With that, Naruto activated the Flying Thunder God technique and vanished with Jiraiya. Konan appeared beside Tendo Pain, her paper wings shifting as she landed. "You're letting them go?" Pain gazed at the kunai on the ground. "Two paths have been destroyed. The power of the six paths is incomplete. Tracking someone using space-time ninjutsu is difficult. And we don't know if more reinforcements are coming. We'll reorganize first. Then, I will personally go to Konoha and capture the Ninetales." He turned, leading the remaining paths of Pain back to their hideout. Mount Myaboku. Shima, the elder female toad, applied medicine to Jiraiya's severed arm. "Brace yourself, boy. This is going to sting." Jiraiya gritted his teeth, sweat pouring from his forehead as the salve burned against his wound. Fukasaku turned toward Naruto. If this kid hadn't shown up in time, Jiraiya would have died for sure. Shima clicked her tongue. "I told you not to go, Jiraiya. You're lucky to have made it back alive." Jiraiya let out a shaky breath. The physical damage from the battle had taken a heavy toll on him. But despite that, despite everything, the thing that shook him the most wasn't Pain's true identity. It was Naruto. His Sage Mode, his Flying Thunder God technique, his combat awareness. He was fighting at a level far beyond what Jiraiya had ever expected. In fact, his Sage Mode was superior to Jiraiya's. Even his combination of jutsu was more fluid than Minato's. Jiraiya couldn't help but feel proud. But he needed answers. He turned to Naruto. "Kid, how did you even get here? And when the hell did you learn Sage Mode and the Flying Thunder God technique?" Shima looked between them, confused. "Wait, this brat knows Sage Mode." Fukasaku nodded seriously. "Yeah, and not just that, his Sage Mode is even better than Jiraiya's. Look, Barely any toad features appeared on him, only the orange pigmentation around his eyes. Shima was stunned. Who taught you, kid? Jiraiya? Jiraiya shook his head. Fukasaku and Shima turned to Naruto expectantly. Naruto hesitated. He looked at Jiraiya. "I'm serious. Sensei, I'm sorry. I can't tell you yet. But one day, I'll explain everything. I promise." Jiraiya studied his apprentice carefully. A few seconds passed. Then he chuckled. "It's fine. A student's allowed to have his secrets. Just make sure you're always walking the right path." His expression darkened slightly as he recalled something. He had confirmed the true mastermind behind pain. It was Nagato, his former student, now his enemy. Jiraiya swallowed the painful thought. Naruto met his gaze, unwavering. "Don't worry, pervy sage. I will protect Konoha, my friends, and this entire world even if it costs me my life, believe it." Jiraiya was momentarily stunned by the sheer conviction in Naruto's voice. Then, his lips curled into a smile. "Maybe," Jiraiya murmured. "Maybe you really are the child of prophecy, just like the great toad sage said." Fukasaku and Shima, the two great sage toads of Mount Myaboku, listened to Jiraiya's words and turned their attention to Naruto. The great toad sage had prophesied that the child of prophecy would be one of Jiraiya's disciples. Judging from what they had just seen, this boy was clearly far more reliable than Nagato. Realizing this, the two great sage toads found their impression of Naruto improving significantly. Naruto understood what the term child of prophecy meant. However, he simply smiled and did not respond to the implication. Having just saved his teacher, Jiraiya, Naruto kept looking at him, as if afraid that the man's figure would suddenly vanish again. Jiraiya noticed Naruto's lingering gaze and asked, puzzled, "What's wrong?" "My sage mode has deactivated. The markings on my face should have disappeared, right?" Naruto wiped away the tears that had unconsciously fallen and responded in a disguised manner. "Yeah, it's nothing. It's just, I haven't seen you in so long, and I missed you a little." Jiraiya felt a deep warmth in his heart. Having just faced an attack from his former disciple, Nagato, and now witnessing Naruto's raw emotions, Jiraiya couldn't help but feel the weight of human bonds pressing down on him. Even as someone who had traveled the world, playing the role of a carefree wanderer, he found himself unable to suppress his emotions at this moment. Unknowingly, tears welled up in his eyes. To cover it up, Jiraiya deliberately looked away, raising his head and grinning. "Come on, what's with the tears, kid? This is too sentimental. If you really miss your teacher, then hurry up and show me your transformation jutsu. Maybe I'll get some inspiration for my next book." Naruto chuckled at Jiraiya's antics. Shima looked over at Jiraiya and said, "All right, the bandages are in place. You just need to rest for a while. Dinner is ready too. Little Naruto, why don't you come and eat as well?" Hearing this, Fukasaku immediately brightened up. "Oh, Ma, what delicious food have you prepared tonight?" Naruto's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't forgotten the time he trained at Mount Myaboku in his previous life. Back then, he had been subjected to Shima's unique cooking. Bugs of all kinds, especially wriggling earthworms, were piled into a bowl. Fukasaku had slurped them up like noodles, thoroughly enjoying his meal. But Naruto had barely managed to stomach it. One bite had been enough to make him vomit on the spot. Now, although he was nostalgic about coming back, he had no intention of reliving that particular experience. Just as Naruto was about to refuse, Jiraiya spoke up. "Fukasaku, Shima, I think it's best if we head back to the village first and report what we learned about pain to Tsunade. This information is crucial." Saying this, Jiraiya attempted to stand up, but Naruto quickly rushed to support him. Fukasaku, however, protested. "Jiraiya boy, at least eat before you leave. Ma went through all that effort to cook." Shima nodded in agreement. "That's right. I even made my special fresh earthworm noodles." The moment Jiraiya and Naruto heard this, they swallowed hard, feeling a sense of dread. Shima looked at the two of them in confusion. "What's wrong with you two, master and disciple?" Jiraiya quickly covered his embarrassment with a laugh. Nothing. It's nothing, really. Thank you for your kindness, but we truly need to return to the village first. We'll come back another day." Naruto eagerly agreed. Yes, we'll be back soon enough." Seeing that they were determined to leave, Fukasaku sighed. Alright then, if it's that important, go ahead. Shima looked disappointed. You two are really missing out on a great meal. Jiraiya and Naruto both forced awkward smiles, scratching their heads. Once Jiraiya was dressed and ready, he turned to Naruto. Do you have a way to get us directly back to the village? If not, I'll ask one of the toads to reverse summon us. Naruto thought for a moment. I should be able to manage. Although he had yet to inherit his father's legacy in full, he knew that his father had left flying thunder god marks in certain places. The remnants of those seals should still exist in the old Namikaze household. Jiraiya nodded at his response. Then, bowing respectfully to Fukasaku and Shima, he said, "Thank you both for your help." Naruto bowed as well. After all, the two sages had been instrumental not just in his training, but in saving his master's life. All right, let's go, Naruto. Right. Naruto placed his hand on Jiraiya's shoulder. In an instant, with a faint buzzing sound, both of them disappeared. The next moment, the two reappeared inside the Namikaze residence. As soon as they landed, both of them started coughing. Cough, cough. Naruto, where did you bring us? Why is there so much dust? Naruto coughed as well and looked around. It took him a moment to realize that he had teleported them into the storage room. Given that no one had lived here for over a decade, the dust was inevitable. Jiraiya's gaze landed on something not far away, a sword, carefully tied with a rope and hanging from the wall. His brow furrowed in confusion. Then, walking over to a wardrobe, he pulled it open. Dust immediately flew into the air, making him cover his nose as he looked inside. His eyes suddenly focused on a familiar piece of clothing. Reaching in, he pulled out a white cloak. On the back, in bold lettering, were the words, "Fourth Hokage." Jiraiya's eyes widened as realization dawned. Wait, is this? Naruto nodded, his voice tinged with nostalgia. Yeah, this is my original home. A wave of emotions surged through him. He had stood in this very place before, back when he first learned about his parents. He had stayed here for a long time, cleaning up every corner of the house, trying to hold on to the lingering traces of their existence. Now, revisiting his childhood home, memories came rushing back like waves crashing against the shore. His eyes drifted to the sword of ninja love that hung nearby. Taking a deep breath, he fought to steady his emotions, blinking rapidly to keep his tears from falling. Jiraiya put the cloak back and closed the wardrobe with a thoughtful look. I see. Naruto, does this mean you already know the truth about your parents? Naruto hesitated before nodding. Yeah, when the Nine-Tails chakra nearly overwhelmed me, my father appeared within me. He left some of his chakra inside me. That's how I found out. Jiraiya took a deep breath. He had always known Minato to be meticulous, planning ahead for every scenario. And this only confirmed it. The fourth Hokage had left part of himself behind, one final gift to his son. Jiraiya smiled softly. Huh, Minato, you really thought of everything, didn't you? Then, turning to Naruto with newfound admiration, he grinned. So that's how you learned Flying Thunder God and Sage Mode, huh? Naruto nodded. He had planned from the start to credit everything to his father. It was easier that way. Jiraiya chuckled. You really are his son? Minato would be proud. Naruto simply smiled. And at that moment, Jiraiya knew without a shadow of a doubt. The child of prophecy was Naruto Uzumaki. Inside the fifth Hokage's office, Tsunade gently touched Jiraiya's broken arm, her expression unreadable. Meanwhile, Jiraiya, as usual, was rambling about his information-gathering mission, barely acknowledging his injuries. Shizen stood beside them, holding Taunton in her arms, her face filled with relief. Naruto stood a little to the side, watching the two of them, and let out a silent sigh. In his previous life, he had always resented Tsunade for letting Jiraiya go alone to such a dangerous place. If their roles had been reversed, Jiraiya would never have let Tsunade go to Amigakure alone. But now, standing here and witnessing this moment, Naruto understood even if Tsunade had tried to stop him, Jiraiya would have gone alone anyway. Alas, Naruto sighed inwardly. Jiraiya had been a shameless pervert all his life, but he had never stopped loving Tsunade. Tsunade frowned as she looked at him. Why would you do something so reckless? If it weren't for Naruto, you wouldn't have come back alive. Jiraiya chuckled, flashing his usual grin. Come on, don't be like that. You always lose your bets, But this time, you actually won one. Smack. Tsunade slapped Jiraiya across the face. Her teeth clenched as tears welled up in her eyes. Baka, you idiot. Jiraiya was momentarily stunned, but then his gaze softened. He slowly raised his only working hand and gently touched Tsunade's trembling fingers that had just struck him. Seeing this, Shizen quickly nudged Naruto, giving him a meaningful look. Naruto understood immediately and followed Shizen out of the office without another word. As soon as they stepped outside, Shizen let out a deep breath and whispered, "Jiraiya-sama made it back safely." Naruto looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Hugging Taunton a little tighter, Shizen led Naruto away from the office. "You don't know, do you? Ever since Jiraiya-sama left for Amigate Cure, Tsunade-sama has been depressed. She barely ate, barely slept." Naruto was shocked. Seriously? It seemed like Jiraiya's place in Tsunade's heart was far more important than he had imagined. He had successfully saved his master from dying this time around. Maybe now, he could push things forward, convince Jiraiya and Tsunade to finally get together. Hell, if they had a kid, Naruto could take the kid under his wing and train them to be the next Hokage. The thought excited him. He was already imagining a mini Jiraiya or mini Tsunade running around, learning jutsu under his guidance. Yeah, that would be awesome. Inside the Hokage's office. The moment Jiraiya's hand touched hers, the wall that Tsunade had built around herself started to crack. Before she could stop herself, she leaned into his chest, letting herself be vulnerable for the first time in decades. Tsunade was still a woman first, even before she was Hokage. There was a time when she was gentle, kind, and full of love. But as tragedy after tragedy struck, she closed off her heart. She lost her brother, she lost Dan, and eventually, she even developed hemophobia. Because to love someone meant opening yourself to the pain of losing them. And Tsunade had lost enough. That was why she had rejected Jiraiya's advances all these years. Until that time. Until Naruto. When Jiraiya brought Naruto to convince her to become Hokage, she had seen something in him, something she had lost. His unyielding determination, his courage in facing Orochimaru, his reckless dream of becoming Hokage, it all reminded her of Dan and Nawaki. And when he was brutally injured, when he fought despite the odds, she had realized something. Naruto was different. He wouldn't die like Dan. He wouldn't die like Nawaki. He was strong enough to survive. And so, she placed all her hopes in him, gave him her grandfather's necklace, entrusted him with her shattered dream of Hokage. And now, Jiraiya had survived too. Maybe, just maybe, she could let herself love again. Tsunade slowly raised her head to look at him. And that was when she noticed Jiraiya's stupid, perverted grin. His eyes were blatantly locked onto her chest, and his hand. His only working hand was inching dangerously close to grabbing her. "Baka, you bastard." Boom. Tsunade's fist smashed into Jiraiya's face, sending him flying across the room and crashing into the wall. Jiraiya clutched his bleeding forehead, groaning. "Ow, ow, ow. What the hell was that for? My injuries haven't even healed yet." Tsunade crossed her arms, her expression dark. "What are you complaining about? If you're injured, I'll just heal you again." Jiraiya muttered under his breath. "Isn't that just an excuse to hit me more? Ow, damn it. We were having a moment just now, and you ow, ow, ow." Tsunade snorted, but despite herself, she smiled a little. What a shameless idiot. Downstairs. At the entrance to the first floor, Naruto and Shizen had just arrived when a thunderous crash shook the entire building. Naruto's eyes widened. What the hell was that? He immediately turned around, ready to rush back upstairs. But Shizen grabbed his arm, stopping him. "Don't. It's just Tsunade-sama." Naruto paused. Yeah. This was Konoha, and with Tsunade around, no one could hurt his master. Unless, of course, that person was Tsunade herself. Yeah, he wasn't getting involved in that. Naruto cleared his throat. "All right, I'll leave then. If anything important happens, just let me know, Shizen." Shizen nodded. "Of course, I'll send someone to find you if needed." Turning away, Naruto started walking down the street. Now that he was back in Konoha, there was one place he really wanted to visit. As he walked through the bustling streets, villagers who once avoided him greeted him warmly. Through his actions, Naruto had finally earned the respect of most of the village. If the original timeline had played out, Jiraiya would be dead by now. Soon, Pain would attack, and Naruto would become the savior of Konoha. But this time, Naruto had changed things. He had saved Jiraiya, and he would save Konoha too. As he walked, Naruto suddenly stopped, his instincts tingling. Turning his head slightly, he glanced at a shadowy alleyway behind him. He smirked, then continued walking forward as if he hadn't noticed. A few moments later, a mysterious figure wearing an Inuzuka-style dog mask stepped out of the alley, silently watching him leave. The game had changed, and Naruto was ready. Ichiraku Ramen had a steady stream of customers coming and going, filling the air with the mouth-watering aroma of freshly prepared noodles. It's finally here. Naruto's steps came to a stop in front of the familiar restaurant, a wide smile breaking across his face. Without hesitation, he pushed the curtain aside and stepped in. "Old man, give me a big bowl of tonkatsu ramen," Naruto called out excitedly. Tucci turned from behind the counter and grinned when he saw who it was. "Oh, if it isn't Naruto, weren't you out on a mission? Looks like you're back safe and sound." As he greeted Naruto, Tucci continued working, his hands skillfully preparing another bowl of ramen. "Yeah, I was on a mission, but something happened along the way, so I had to return to Konoha," Naruto replied as he took his usual seat at the counter. Tucci chuckled, scooping up a generous portion of ingredients. "Well then, consider this a reward. Extra toppings on the house." Naruto's eyes sparkled with gratitude. "Thanks, old man." A steaming bowl of tonkatsu ramen was placed in front of him, piled high with delicious toppings. The familiar scent hit him instantly, evoking memories of countless meals at Ichiraku. As he picked up his chopsticks, an overwhelming warmth filled his chest. The taste of home, of comfort, of a place that had always been there for him. It was something beyond words. Putting his hands together in a small prayer, Naruto whispered, "Itadakimasu." Then, without hesitation, he snapped apart his chopsticks and dug in. Slurp, slurp. One mouthful after another, Naruto devoured the ramen, savoring every bite. The rich broth, the perfectly cooked noodles, it was all just as he remembered. For a moment, all his worries faded away. The burden of his past life, the pain of the Otsutsuki's interference, all disappeared in the simple act of eating. Tucci chuckled as he watched Naruto enjoy his meal. "If you want more, just let me know. I'll make as many bowls as you want." Naruto nodded eagerly, not planning to hold back. To him, Tucci was more than just the owner of Ichiraku Ramen, he was family. Ever since Naruto was a kid, Tucci had been kind to him. On nights when Naruto had no money or food, he had always found a warm bowl waiting for him here. When Naruto and Hinata got married, Tucci had even gifted him a lifetime free ramen coupon, a gesture that meant the world to him. Finishing the last sip of soup, Naruto let out a deep sigh of satisfaction. Man, that hit the spot. Ramen had always been an important part of his journey, his comfort food, his motivation, and his reward after hard work. Whether he was struggling with training, facing hardships, or simply feeling down, he had always found himself back here. It was more than just a meal. It was a reminder of how far he had come. "Old man, one more bowl of tonkatsu ramen." Just as Naruto placed his order, a familiar voice called out from behind. "Naruto, what a coincidence." Naruto turned and blinked in surprise. "Iruka-sensei." Iruka smiled as he approached the counter. "Hey, aren't you supposed to be on a mission?" His expression suddenly turned serious as he noticed Naruto's slightly red eyes. Hey, what's wrong? Did something happen?" Naruto hesitated for a moment before abruptly pulling Iruka into a tight hug. In his previous life, Iruka had sacrificed himself to protect Naruto when the time came. The memory of his former teacher blocking death's path for him was something he could never forget. "It's nothing," Naruto murmured, holding back his emotions. Iruka raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "Are you sure?" Naruto released him and scratched the back of his head with a grin. "Yeah, I just haven't seen you in a while. I missed you, that's all." Still skeptical, Iruka gave him a light punch on the shoulder. "You're acting strange, you know that?" He sat down at the counter as Tucci placed a fresh bowl of ramen in front of him. Breaking apart his chopsticks, Iruka took a bite before glancing at Naruto again. "Does this have something to do with Sasuke?" he asked between mouthfuls. Naruto shook his head. No, it's not about Sasuke. Irika studied him for a moment. Then what is it? You're not the type to get all sentimental out of nowhere. Naruto simply smiled. In front of Irika, Naruto always felt at ease. Irika had been the first person to truly acknowledge him, the first to see him not as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, but as Naruto Uzumaki. In his heart, Irika was more than a teacher. He was an older brother, a father figure, a mentor. That was why, in his previous life, Naruto had chosen Irika to stand in for his father at his wedding. It's really nothing, Naruto said, shaking his head. I just wanted to hug you, that's all. Irika gave him a suspicious look. Really? Naruto nodded with a grin. Their conversation was interrupted as a voice called out from the entrance. Boss! Boss! Naruto turned toward the door, seeing Konohamaru push past the curtain, panting heavily. Behind him, Udon and Moegi struggled to keep up. Naruto laughed. Konohamaru. Udon. Moegi. Long time no see. Stepping off his stool, he ruffled Konohamaru's hair affectionately. To Naruto, Konohamaru was more than just his first disciple. He was like a younger brother. In his previous life, Konohamaru had fought and died protecting him. The weight of that sacrifice still lingered in Naruto's heart. Boss, I finally found you. Konohamaru huffed. You disappeared before I could catch up. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What's up? Konohamaru grinned. Grandma Tsunade told me to find you. She wants you to head to the Hokage's office right away. Naruto sighed, feeling disappointed that his peaceful ramen time was coming to an end. Already? Man, that was fast. He stretched before turning to Irika. Looks like I gotta go. See you later, Irika-sensei. Irika waved. Yeah, don't keep Lady Hokage waiting. As Naruto and Konohamaru left Ichiraku, a darker scene unfolded deep within the root base. Danzo stood before a large stone statue, gripping his cane, his face unreadable. Behind him, a masked root operative knelt on one knee. You're saying the Nine-Tails boy has returned to the village, and he brought Jiraiya with him? Danzo asked. The masked ninja nodded. Yes, Lord Danzo. Danzo narrowed his one visible eye in contemplation. After a brief pause, he finally spoke. Continue monitoring Naruto. Do not let him out of your sight. Yes, sir. With a swift movement, the root operative vanished into the shadows, leaving Danzo standing alone, lost in thought. Inside the Hokage's office, Kakashi and his team had returned to report their mission's outcome. Due to the battle between Sasuke and Itachi and the subsequent intervention of Uchiha Madara, Sasuke had been taken away, leaving them with no clue about his whereabouts. With the mission unable to proceed further, the only option was to return to Konoha and report to Lady Tsunade before deciding on the next steps. The moment Kakashi and his team arrived, Tsunade immediately summoned them for questioning. Upon learning that Naruto had suddenly fainted, only to wake up and act like a completely different person leaving the team, without even looking back, both Tsunade and Jiraiya were puzzled. And when they heard that Naruto had forcefully kissed Hinata and confessed his love, Jiraiya shot up from his seat and exclaimed, "This brat is a beast. He really is my disciple." Only for Tsunade to glare at him, forcing him to awkwardly sit back down. Tsunade paced back and forth, her mind racing. At the same time, Jiraiya was deep in thought. Naruto had claimed that his flying thunder god and sage jutsu were taught to him by the fourth Hokage, but how did he know that Jiraiya would be in danger? From Jiraiya's perspective, if Naruto hadn't shown up when he did, he would have been exposed and had zero chance of survival. The timing was too perfect. Almost as if Naruto knew what was going to happen. The more Jiraiya thought about it, the more disturbed he became. He decided that he had to question Naruto directly. Meanwhile, Kakashi was equally shaken. Tsunade had been grooming him as a potential successor to the Hokage position, meaning he was privy to many village secrets, including the details of Jiraiya's mission. So, when Kakashi heard about Naruto using Sage Mode, the Flying Thunder God technique, and Rasengan all in actual combat, his entire body tensed. This kid is growing way too fast. He had already been stunned when Naruto broke free of Yamato's would-release technique. But Sage Mode, that alone surpasses most Jonin-level shinobi. And then there was the Flying Thunder God technique. When the hell did Naruto learn the fourth Hokage's technique? This is insane. It was widely known that mastering space-time ninjutsu was extremely difficult. Even the 3 elite Jonin guards of the 4th Hokage had to work together to perform it, and even then, they could only use it for limited movement. But according to Jiraiya, Naruto had perfected it and was already using it seamlessly in combat. Kakashi was left utterly speechless. At the Hokage Tower, 1st floor. As soon as Naruto arrived, he was greeted by a familiar voice. Naruto-kun. At first, he wore a neutral expression, but the moment he saw who it was, his face lit up with joy. Hinata. Without hesitation, he opened his arms, expecting her to jump into his embrace like she had done countless times in his past life. But Hinata, ever the shy one, hesitated. Because there were so many people around, she simply ran up to him and stopped. Naruto stood there with his arms wide open, completely frozen. Hinata glanced at him shyly before whispering, "Naruto-kun, there are kids here." Naruto turned around. Sure enough, Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon were standing nearby, staring at them. Oh, yeah, that probably wouldn't leave the best impression. Scratching the back of his head, Naruto gave a sheepish smile. "Oh, my bad, Hinata." Behind Hinata, Sakura snorted and crossed her arms. Shikamaru, on the other hand, frowned slightly. "Wait, you two are actually together now." Kiba grinned, leaning toward Shikamaru and whispering excitedly, "It's real." Naruto fainted, then woke up and started going off like crazy. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. "No way." Kiba slapped Shino on the shoulder. "If you don't believe me, ask Shino." Shino adjusted his glasses and nodded seriously. Sai, not wanting Shikamaru to struggle imagining the scene, quickly sketched a picture of Naruto's confession and kiss. Kiba peeked at it and gave Sai a thumbs up. Professional work. Shikamaru stared at the drawing, then at Naruto, who was giggling outside. After a long pause, he sighed and clapped his hands together. What the actual hell? After catching up with his friends and confirming Sasuke's situation, Naruto's expression darkened. Just like in his past life, Sasuke had fought Itachi, won, and witnessed his brother's death only to be taken away by Uchiha Madara, who was actually Obito in disguise. Next, Obito would reveal the truth about Itachi to Sasuke, which would drive him to seek out the 8 tails in the land of lightning. Naruto clenched his fists. "Looks like I need to step up my game." With that in mind, he bid farewell to his friends and headed toward the Hokage's office. Inside the Hokage's office, Naruto pushed open the door and casually greeted, "Hey, Granny Tsunade, you called for me." Then, noticing Kakashi, he blinked in surprise. "Oh, Kakashi-sensei, you're here too?" Tsunade leaned against her desk, arms crossed, staring at Naruto with sharp eyes. "Naruto, don't you have anything to say about this mission?" Naruto instinctively glanced at Jiraiya for help, but his perverted old master immediately turned away, pretending not to notice. Naruto rolled his eyes. Damn, what a useless master. If he ever got together with Tsunade, she'd definitely dominate him. Well, if no one was going to ask outright, he might as well play dumb. "What do you mean, Granny Tsunade?" he asked, feigning innocence. Tsunade sighed before stepping forward. "Naruto, there's no one else here. It's just me, Jiraiya, and Kakashi. We're people you can trust. Your changes have been unusual. Your strength has skyrocketed. And you still haven't told Jiraiya how you even knew he was in the Rain Village and how you managed to find and rescue him." She studied him closely. "I'm not doubting you, but as Hokage, I have to consider every possibility. I hope you understand." Jiraiya coughed before adding, "Naruto, no matter what happens, I'll always believe in you. But Tsunade is more cautious, and she's got a point. If you tell her, it'll put her at ease." Naruto fell silent for a moment before calmly replying, "I'm sorry, Granny Tsunade." No comment. Kakashi spoke up. "Naruto, this isn't just Tsunade speaking. This is the Hokage ordering you to explain. You do realize the gravity of this, right?" "Of course I do." Naruto's expression didn't change. "But I also hope Granny Tsunade can respect that everyone has their own secrets, including me. The only thing I can share is what I told my master. My father, the 4th Hokage, left something for me." Tsunade and Jiraiya exchanged glances, already suspecting as much. Kakashi's eyes widened. "The 4th Hokage? You actually spoke to him?" Jiraiya explained. Minato left a fragment of his chakra inside Naruto's seal. When Naruto almost lost control of the Nine Tails, that chakra emerged. He must have spoken to Naruto then. Naruto turned to Tsunade. Anything else? Tsunade frowned. What's wrong? Naruto glanced at Jiraiya. Master, can we talk outside? I have something to ask you. Without waiting for a response, Naruto walked out. Kakashi reached out. Wait, Naruto dash. But the door had already closed behind him. Jiraiya frowned, glancing at Tsunade. Tsunade nodded. With a sigh, Jiraiya followed Naruto outside. After Jiraiya left, Tsunade once again asked Kakashi about all the circumstances surrounding Naruto's departure from the village. After hearing everything, she realized that the Nine Tails rampage almost never happened. Because if the Nine Tails had truly gone berserk, Yamato would have been the first to notice. The only real anomaly was that Naruto had suddenly fainted. Thinking of this, Tsunade fell into deep thought. Outside at night, under a streetlight in Konoha, Jiraiya sat on a bench. Hurried footsteps echoed from the darkness. Jiraiya raised his head, his body shifting slightly as he asked in confusion, "Where have you been? It took you so long to buy something." Naruto quickly sat down, tearing open the packaging bag and gasping. "I had to dig through the freezer for a long time to find this flavor. It took me a while." Saying that, Naruto pulled out a twin popsicle, broke it in half, and handed one to Jiraiya. "Here, Ero-sennin, take it." Jiraiya stared at the popsicle in mild surprise, his mind drifting to old memories. The first time Naruto ate this type of popsicle, he had just begun learning the Rasengan under Jiraiya's guidance. Back then, Naruto had been thirsty and bought one himself. At the time, Jiraiya thought Naruto was going to treat himself to something fancy, but it turned out to be something as simple as this. And now, the flavor Naruto had chosen was the exact same one. Jiraiya smiled slightly and accepted the popsicle. Seeing this, Naruto grinned and happily took a bite of his. A gust of autumn wind blew past, making both of them shiver slightly. Jiraiya, feeling the cold, grumbled, "It's almost autumn, and yet you're dragging this old man out here just to eat popsicles." But to Naruto's ears, this light-hearted complaint sounded warm like home. After a moment, Jiraiya glanced at him. "So what did you call me out here for? It wasn't just for popsicles, was it?" Naruto sucked on his popsicle, then shook his head. "No, I came to ask you for the key." Jiraiya stopped mid-bite, narrowing his eyes slightly. "What key?" Naruto met his gaze and said firmly, "The key to the Nine Tails seal. You have it, don't you?" Jiraiya took another bite of his popsicle, his mind hesitating. Originally, before the battle with Pain, he had already planned to hand over the Nine Tails seal key, instructing Fukusaku to return to Konoha and deliver it to Ibiki Marino. However, after Naruto saved him, and especially after seeing the immense power and mysterious changes in Naruto's abilities, Jiraiya couldn't shake his unease. He trusted his apprentice. He trusted Minato's decisions and foresight. But he couldn't ignore this strange feeling of anxiety. He had seen Nagato fall into darkness before. What if Naruto followed the same path? If that happened, Jiraiya would truly have no disciples left. Sensing his master's hesitation, Naruto smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry, Ero-sennin. My father already told me that he trusts me. He said I should ask you for the key so that, under your supervision, I can train and master the Nine Tails chakra." Jiraiya blinked in surprise. "The fourth Hokage instructed you to do this?" Naruto nodded. "Yeah, you think I'd come up with this on my own?" Jiraiya sighed and continued eating his popsicle, thinking it over. In the end, he had planned to give Naruto the key anyway. Now that Naruto had actively come to ask for it, Jiraiya figured this was as normal a time as any. Finishing the last bit of his popsicle, Jiraiya stood up. "All right, get up. Lend me a hand first." Naruto frowned. "Huh? What?" Jiraiya rolled his eyes. "Idiot. I need your hand to form the seal." Grabbing Naruto's hand, Jiraiya formed a summoning seal calling forth Giratora, the Toad Scroll. A moment later, Giratora emerged from Jiraiya's mouth, looking irritated. "What the hell, Jiraiya? Why are you summoning me out again?" Then he noticed Naruto standing nearby, smiling and waving at him. Giratora's expression darkened. "Wait, Are you seriously going to entrust it to him? Jiraiya nodded. I made that decision a long time ago. Since Naruto has taken the initiative, I'm going to hand it over properly. Jiraiya eyed Jiraiya's missing hand and frowned. You're in no shape to stop the Nine Tails if things go wrong. Are you sure about this? Jiraiya grimaced. He had to admit, Jiraiya had a point. Naruto, however, just smiled. It's fine. I'm not the same Naruto I used to be. I have my own ways of dealing with the Nine Tails. Ever since returning from death, Naruto had been trying to actively train with the Nine Tails chakra. He had even attempted to enter the sealed space, the familiar sewer-like chamber inside his mind. But something was different. The Nine Tails had completely cut off their chakra connection. No matter how many times Naruto called out to him, there was no response. That's why he urgently needed the key so he could unlock the seal and figure out what was going on. Jiraiya snorted. Arrogant brat. Do you even understand how terrifying that fox is? Just opening Four Tails mode nearly killed Jiraiya. That's enough, Jiraiya interrupted. My decision is final. Give the key to Naruto. Jiraiya sighed. All right. Extending his small body, the nine-tail seal pattern from the fourth Hokage appeared on his skin. He looked at Naruto. Place your handprint here, and I will enter your body. Naruto, familiar with this process, immediately stepped forward and pressed his hand onto the pattern. Jiraiya sealed himself into Naruto's stomach. Then, he looked up at Naruto and said, Now, open your mouth wide. I'm going in. Naruto's face paled. He suddenly recalled the time Grandma Tsunade stuffed a frog into his mouth and locked it inside his stomach. Wait, do I really have to swallow you? Jiraiya smirked. No other way, brat. Now brace yourself. Naruto gulped. Jiraiya sighed, rubbing his temples in exasperation. Quit whining. Just take it like a man. And with that, he slapped Naruto's back, shoving Jiraiya inside his stomach. Blrrghhh. Naruto gagged, his face twisted in pure disgust as he fought the urge to vomit. Jiraiya, ignoring Naruto's suffering, dusted his hands off and smiled. There, complete. That night, after finishing his bath, Naruto lay down on his old bed and stretched. This was the house where he grew up. In his previous life, it had been destroyed by a Shinra Tensei when pain invaded Konoha. The moonlight outside was beautiful, but Naruto had no time to appreciate it. He closed the curtains, then lay back down, lifting up his pajama top and slowly trailing his fingers down his stomach. Finally, he reached his navel, the place where Kurama was sealed. With his right hand, he gathered chakra at his fingertips, and the 8-trigram seal appeared. Pressing his palm against it, he twisted his hand slightly. Click! The first seal loosened, allowing his chakra to enter. Inside the sealed space, a pair of scarlet eyes snapped open, filled with hatred as they glared at the gate. Naruto smirked slightly and let his consciousness sink in. The next moment, he opened his eyes again and found himself standing in the all-too-familiar sewer-like mindscape. Naruto groaned. TCH, I really wish this place had a better aesthetic. With that, he walked straight toward the massive sealed gate and shouted. Oi, Kurama, I've been calling you, but you ignored me. You even cut off our chakra connection. If I didn't have the key, I wouldn't have been able to get in at all. From the darkness behind the bars, Kurama stepped forward, his scarlet eyes locked onto Naruto, his fangs bared in a menacing grin, as if he wanted to tear Naruto apart right there. Naruto frowned. What's with that look? Taking a step closer, he suddenly saw Kurama's massive claws swiping at him through the bars. Shit. Naruto barely dodged in time, stumbling back. If he had been a second slower, those claws would have shredded his very soul. What the hell, Kurama? Did you just try to freaking kill me? Naruto shouted. Kurama bared his fangs and growled. Don't call me Kurama, you imposter. Naruto blinked. Huh? Kurama paced behind the gate, his tails flicking in agitation. You're not that brat, Naruto. That weak, naive fool always called me Nine Tails. You, on the other hand, your mind, your aura, it's completely different. You're too composed, too strong. You're an entirely different person. So tell me, who the hell are you? Naruto froze for a moment before realization dawned on him. Oh, that's why he locked himself away. Kurama must have noticed the change in his soul. To him, It seemed like the old Naruto had completely disappeared, replaced by a different person occupying his body. So this dumb fox thinks I took over my own body, huh? Kurama's growl deepened. Tell me, what did you do with the brat? Naruto smirked and decided to mess with him. What's wrong? I thought you hated that brat. Why are you so concerned about him all of a sudden? Kurama let out a low snarl. I don't need to explain myself to you. Naruto folded his arms across his chest, watching Kurama with amusement. Well, if you're that worried, I've got bad news for you. He sighed dramatically. That brat's soul? Yeah, I devoured it. Kurama's eyes flared with fury. All 9 of his tails lashed violently, his killing intent surging as he roared. You monster! I'll rip you apart. Naruto watched as Kurama slammed his claws against the gate, roaring in rage like an oversized, pissed-off house cat. At that moment, Naruto couldn't help it. He burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. Oh my god, Kurama, you're priceless. Ha ha. You act all high and mighty, but you actually cared, huh? Kurama's ears twitched in irritation. I said stop calling me that, you insolent brat. Naruto shook his head, wiping a tear from his eye. Damn, this is great. He took a deep breath before his expression turned serious. Relax, Kurama. I was just messing with you. Kurama narrowed his eyes. TCH. Then explain yourself, imposter. Naruto sighed and shrugged. Technically, you're not wrong. I am not the same Naruto. But I am Naruto. Just from the future. Kurama's eyes flickered in surprise before he scoffed. Huh? You expect me to believe that nonsense? Time travel isn't possible. Naruto smirked. It is, if the Sage of 6 Paths himself sends you back. Kurama's expression shifted slightly. What did you say? It was Hagoromo Otsutsuki, Naruto said firmly. He sent me back in time. Kurama went silent for a long moment, his tails lowering slightly. Naruto took the chance to continue. As for how I know your name, it was Killer B and Gyuki, or as B calls him, Hachibi, who told me when I was training to master your chakra. Kurama's eyes widened. What? You're telling me that idiot octopus agreed to help you, and that I let you control my chakra? Naruto nodded. Yup. Though, to be fair, you weren't exactly happy about it at first. He smirked. I had to bribe you with a shit ton of meatballs before you cooperated. Kurama's claws dug into the ground. TCH, meatballs. You think you can buy me off with food like some common house cat? Naruto just grinned. Hey, don't blame me. You were the one drooling over them. Kurama let out an irritated huff. Oomph. Even if this is true, I am the mighty 9 tails. I wouldn't let some brat like you command my power. Naruto shrugged. Well, you did. And since you don't believe me, let me prove it. He took a deep breath. I know all of the tailed beasts' real names. Want me to list them? Kurama's ears twitched, but he remained silent. Naruto smirked and started. Shikaku 1 tail. Matatabi 2 tails, also known as Nakomada. Isabu 3 tails. Son Goku 4 tails. Kokuo 5 tails. Saiken 6 tails. Komi 7 tails. Gyuki 8 tails, also called Hachibi. Kurama 9 tails, aka the oversized, Sundara fox who likes meatballs. Kurama's fur bristled. You little dash. Naruto just grinned cheekily. Face it, fuzzball, I know way too much to be an imposter.